It's that time again. Let's take a tour of every car I own, all 10 of them. Hey everybody, Ethan here. Welcome to Hello Road. So if you've been following my channel for a while, you probably know that I kind of have a problem. I often spend my time browsing Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace looking for cheap and unique cars that are in need of a new home. And as such, my yard has filled up with weird, obscure, and mostly broken vehicles. I had recently slimmed down my collection to 7 vehicles, but now it's ballooned up to 10. So let's go through all the cars that are here right now, what makes them special, what makes them terrible, what makes them broken. Maybe I should just call this the Hello Road Car Show. Come on down and see all of my crappy cars. Think anybody would pay to see that? Maybe not anything from this collection. Okay, let's start with my 1986 Porsche 944 Turbo, which is my most recent addition to the fleet. All right, so the first thing you'll notice when you get in this car is that this is all messed up. This door handle is completely screwed up. Got to screw that back together. Yeah, there's a lot of problems with this car, but keep in mind, this car has over 400,000 miles on the clock. Yep, it has over 400,000 miles. I know that's hard to believe, but it's true. The odometer only says 354 and change, but apparently one of the previous owners had the car for a while and the odometer stopped working, so it's probably closer to 500,000. I know that's insane for a Porsche 944 Turbo. Maybe not exactly known for their reliability, but this car, as far as I know, the engine has never been opened up. Yeah, this is a very, very high mileage car, and it runs great. Yes, the parking brake decided to explode and punch a hole in the rotor. It spews some oil out the tailpipe, maybe because of failing turbo seals. The dashboard is cracked, and it does seem to leak about 9 gallons of power steering fluid a day. But I don't want to get too depressed about this car. High mileage vehicles are bound to have issues, so I'm willing to roll with it with this vehicle because it's so much fun. I think what makes this car special is the fact that it's so high mileage, but it still runs really well. It still has a ton of power. I just love the iconic shape of this car. I think 944s are really kind of my favorite Porsche design, like at least the shape of it. I love the fact that it's completely 80s with the pop-up headlights. I'll do a full review of this car at some point in the future, but the thing that I love about this car is the power. Once that turbo spools up, this thing is a lot of fun. Currently, it's kind of become my daily driver. The power is addictive. The sound of the turbo spooling up is addictive. The handling of this car is addictive. It's fantastic. It's so much fun. So what do I hate about this car? I'd say the only thing I hate is kind of not knowing if it's going to work. I've never had a car with this many miles on it. So you're constantly driving it, you know, spooling up the turbo and just wondering when the engine's gonna blow up, when the timing belt's gonna snap, or I don't know, when I'm gonna pop another hole in a brake rotor. It's more of just a little bit of stress when I'm driving it, just wondering if this car is gonna make it another 10 miles. So my plans for this car, just keep driving it and drive it some more. It's so much fun. All right, that's it for this one. Off to the next one. New car alert, new car alert, new car alert, new car alert. Check this out, I got a new truck. 2002 Jeep Grand Cherokee, the WJ. Let's go check it out. So this is my 2002 Jeep Grand Cherokee. So I just got this truck today. I got it from a friend who just wanted to unload it. He didn't want it anymore. He didn't want anything else to do with it. There's actually not a whole lot wrong with it, but he just wanted it out of his yard. He has too many cars, so he knew that I would pretty much buy anything, which is true. So I got this truck for $500. I know that's kind of a friend discount, so chances are you're not going to find a WJ for $500 unless it's got a blown engine or something. But yes, I'm very excited about this truck. It was cheap. It actually has a replacement motor in it with only 60,000 miles on it. It's got an OME lift kit, which is pretty cool. So this truck is pretty capable. I've never owned a Jeep before, so I'm pretty excited about this one. So I won't go into too much detail about this truck just because I've only had it for a few hours. But first impressions are interior feels sort of like early 2000s American car cheap. Lots of little bits and pieces that are kind of a little chintzy and plasticky, but I don't really care about that. The purpose of this truck is for me to go off-roading a little bit more, so I'm really looking forward to that. The only problem is I parked the car here and now it won't start. I'm hoping it's just a battery. It's probably just a battery. With as many cars as I have, I'm constantly going through batteries and trickle chargers and jump starting. It's just, there's no way around that. So don't own too many cars. It may look glamorous, but it's not. All right, off to the next one. So you might remember that the Stanza wagon has no B-pillar. So structural integrity is maybe a little bit severely compromised in this vehicle. Just shutting the door kind of makes it feel like the whole car is just buckling. It's not really confidence inspiring. Also, it smells terrible in here. Who peed in here? I forgot that this car smells maybe the worst out of any vehicle I've ever owned. That's not true. The Poobaroo smelled the worst out of any vehicle I owned by far, but this is a close second. Pretty sure that this car had a leak at some point, so there's probably a little bit of mildew under the carpet back there that I need to take care of. I really need this to do a little bit more than it's doing right now. So yes, 86 Stanza wagon. This car only has 50,000 miles on the clock, which is insane. I just recently got it running again. It runs pretty well considering it was sitting for a year. This is another one of my vehicles that you sit in and you're just instantly transported back into time. Into a weird era too, where companies were trying lots of different things with vans. This is what I might consider the first minivan. I know this car will never get credit for being the first minivan, but I believe that this was really the first minivan because it's got sliding doors, it's an upright shape, it's kind of small, but it's a minivan. And this is just one of those things where Nissan was like, hey, let's try no B-pillar. That sounds like a great idea, right? It certainly makes getting in and out of the car easier, but for sure, side impact in this car would be, I think the other car would just go right through. So maybe no big deal. The other car just goes right through. But anyway, yeah, look at the dashboard of this car, instantly taken back into the mid 80s. Got the graph paper design behind the gauges, all these sharp edges with this really, really cheap looking fake stitching. The stereo way down here where you can barely reach it. But yeah, this is another one of those cars where I want to stare at it all day long. I love how this car looks. So my plans for this car are to get rid of that smell, maybe a new fuel pump. I think it needs a new fuel pump. Really just kind of clean it up. I think that's it. This is probably not going to be a long-term car for me because I don't realistically see me driving this that often. I value my safety a little bit. I mean, I have mostly kind of unsafe cars, but this is by far probably the least safe car ever built. I mean, I'm just making that up, but it can't be too far from the truth. So I like this car a lot, but I don't really want to be driving it in Los Angeles that much. I'm gonna open the door now because I'm starting to get a headache from the terrible pee smell in here. Again, if I sell this car, that's gonna go away, but right now it's pretty bad. Whew. Whew. Anyway, I think that's enough with this car. There'll be more videos of this vehicle soon, and maybe it'll be up for sale soon. So, all right, off to the next one. Ooh, it's hot in here. Black car, hot car. Ooh, ah! Leather seats burning my rear. 1990 Pontiac Turbo Grand Prix, one of about only 3,000 ever made. This is the one that was modified by ASE McLaren. It's got a 3.1 liter turbocharged 6-cylinder, makes 205 horsepower, 0 to 60 in about 7 seconds, which was pretty impressive for 1990. Yes, and the thing that just makes this car special is just it's dripping, it's oozing with 1990s goodness, with all the buttons and all the body cladding. It's amazing. Out of all the cars that I own, this is probably by far my favorite interior. I mean, seriously, this is maybe my favorite interior of any car I've ever owned. It's awesome. I love it. I mean, this car is just a 1990s time capsule. So to counter that, this car has issues. It hesitates at about 3,000 RPM. The brakes have been kind of a disaster. If you watch my most recent video about this car, you'll see that they just kind of mysteriously decided to start working properly again. I have no idea how that happened, but they do. So what are my plans for this car? Honestly, I have no idea. I've had a lot of plans for this car. Initially, I thought I was gonna have my friend Charles help me fix it. He didn't have any time, so it sat. And then I was gonna bring it to a shop to swap out the brakes, but then they just started magically working again. So I don't know. I feel like I should just drive it. I do feel like at some point, this car needs to go to a Pontiac fanatic. I like this car so much, but I just don't drive it that much. It has only 70,000 miles on the clock. If I fix up a few things, I think this car might do pretty well on Bring a Trailer. So we'll see. I just want to put all of this in my living room. This is amazing. If I could just, instead of staring at a computer all day, editing videos, I think I'd rather just stare at this steering wheel. It's lovely. All right, off to the next one. All right, 2005 Scion XB. If you've seen my other videos about this car, you'll know that this is pretty much my favorite vehicle that I've ever owned. I've owned over 40 cars in my life. I love this car so much because it doesn't ever fail me. I should knock on wood or something because now is probably the time that it will fail. It's got 225,000 miles on it, but this is the car that I can always count on. When the rest of my terrible fleet is not working, I can grab the keys to my Scion, it'll start right up and take me to wherever I need to go. Probably need to keep this car for as long as possible because as I gaze upon all my other collection of terrible boxes, I know that this Scion is always going to start up and take me where I need to go. So thank you, Scion. You've been a good car. We're keeping you. So there are a few things wrong with this vehicle, nothing too crazy. None of the automatic door locks work anymore. I think that's kind of a common problem with Scions. It requires $25 worth of parts for each door, and me just spending the time to take it apart and put it back together. I just haven't ever got around to it. For a while, the rear window wasn't working, but it just decided to start working again. Other than that, what else is wrong with this car? The paint's faded. There's really nothing else wrong. I think the other thing that is quite amazing to me, that this car is 15 years old. It bakes in the hot Los Angeles sun day in and day out, and the dashboard is perfect. There's nothing wrong with this interior. It's just endures, which I think is amazing compared to some of the cars from the 80s and 90s where if you look at it wrong, the dashboard will crack, like my Geo. So yeah, love this car. I can't imagine getting rid of it. I mean, it is starting to get pretty old. It burns a little bit of oil, but it's just so damn reliable. Off to the next one. Okay, my 1988 Chevrolet Nova Twin Cam. Again, this is a very rare car. They only made about 3,000 of these things. 1 year only. You could only get it in black. You could only get it with a red stripe. You could only get it with this two-tone interior. And very few people bought this car because it was a little bit too expensive for what it was. It was encroaching on Camaro territory, at least the V6 at the time, so not that many people bought it. That doesn't mean it's not a good car. This is probably my favorite car right now. Wait, didn't I say that about my Scion? Favorite for a different reason. Well, actually, the 944 Turbo is also my favorite car because it's so much fun. I don't know, I have a lot of favorites. Anyway, this car is one of my favorite cars. 7,500 RPM redline, tons of fun on back roads. It's not fast, but just the whole experience of that engine, the fact that this car weighs about the same as a Miata, it's a fun little car that nobody remembers. So my plans for this car probably are to never get rid of it. I've had a few people that say they wanted to buy it, but I'm sorry, I don't think that's ever gonna happen. This car is just too much fun, and there's a lot of nostalgia here for me. This was one of those vehicles where when I was 18, I had a chance to buy one, and I didn't do it. And because these were so rare, I spent years, like decades looking for another one, and I finally came across this one. And it's one of those things where, sure, you can wait a long time for a car, but then you might get it and realize, oh, I didn't really like this that much. But I got this, I waited a long time for this car, I finally found one, and I ended up loving it. So that's probably why I'm not gonna get rid of this thing. It's just one of those obscure cars, really rare, and it's just fun because nobody knows what it is. That's the other thing I like about it. It's just kind of an unassuming little econobox, but I just happen to know they only made 3,000 of these, and there's probably only a handful of them left. Chevy Nova Twin Cam, I love it. Next car. 1991 Geo Prizm GSi hatchback, one of only 237 made in 1991. So this car is the most rare car I've ever owned. And funny story, I actually used to own a 1991 Geo Prizm GSi back when I was 18. So I've owned 2 of the 237 GSi hatchbacks from 1991. Definitely by far the rarest car I've ever owned, and I've owned it twice. So probably one of the most rare econoboxes made by GM, as far as I can tell. Maybe it's the most rare, I'm not sure. So this is the spiritual successor to the Nova Twin Cam. It's the same idea. Take a Toyota design, build it in the US at the Numi factory, stuff a 4AG Toyota motor under the hood, put some sports suspension in the thing, and you have a kind of, it wasn't a hot hatch, but it was kind of a fun little Econobox of the era. It's a very special car that not very many people purchased. Obviously, they only made 237 of the hatchbacks this year. So yeah, this car is a disaster. It's completely trashed. The dashboard is cracked. There's mold and mildew on the floor. There's a big dent in the door. Yeah, everything's just, it's well used, as it should be. This car is old, it was an Econobox. The original owner of this car had no idea that it was so rare, and it doesn't matter. It was just a cheap transportation that happened to have a hopped up motor in it. So I bought it because I owned one back in the day, and I sold it when I was 18, and I missed it. So it was a lot of fun. It was one of my first cars, and that's why I spent years and years looking for this one. And when I actually found this one, it was a really fun thing. I found it in Utah, and I did a road trip from Utah back to Los Angeles, and I stopped at all these really cool places along the way. And that was an incredibly memorable experience, and this car mostly made it without issues. A couple small issues, but you'd have to watch some of those videos to find out. But you know, getting it home and having the car sit here for a while, I kind of just didn't ever really bond with it. I thought that it would be sort of instant nostalgia, taking me back to when I was 18 to when I had this car, but a car is never really going to take you back in time as much as I really wanted this to do that, and I just haven't bonded with it. I had plans on maybe trying to fix it up and drive it around, but I don't really have the desire to do that. So unfortunately, I think that this Geo Prizm is going to remain in this condition unless I can find a buyer that actually wants to take this and do the work to fix it up. It's a huge project. It's a really cool car with a lot of history, but I just don't think I'm the person to restore it. So my plans for this car is that it's probably going to go up for sale soon. And I know that there's some Prizm GSi fanatics out there. I'm going to reach out to them first to see if they're interested. Because the last thing that I want to happen is somebody to get this car and not know how special it is to some people and just trash it even more. So I'm not going to just get rid of it. I really need to make sure that the right person comes along that wants to take on this project. But yeah, if you're interested in a 1991 Geo Prizm GSi and you want to restore it, let me know. All right, off to the next one. All right, the next one is actually not driving right now, so I couldn't put it in my yard with all the other ones, so let's go to the garage. (1997) Nissan 200SX SER, Liam Neeson. So if you've been following my channel for a while, you know that this is our 24 Hours of Lemons race car. It's a ton of fun to drive on those tracks with all those other crappy $500 race cars. When it's actually running properly, as you can see, there's currently no motor in the car. We blew up the engine, or rather, I blew up the engine at the last event, kind of overheated it, maybe just a little bit. So we ripped that motor out, and now we're about halfway in the process of putting a new motor in. Our team is pretty slow when it comes to making repairs to this car. We work maybe every, I don't know, it feels like every couple months on this thing. There's teams that can replace a motor in an evening, but it seems to take us like years. So it's in process. Hopefully we'll be able to do another 24 Hours of Lemons race soon, but for now, it's just sitting in my garage, taking up space. Off to the next one. Oh, I'm getting too old for this. So this is my 2015 Ram 1500. I bought this car at an auction online. You can watch my previous video by clicking above to see that whole process. But I bought this car just kind of to see how difficult it was to buy a car at an auction and to see if buying a car sight unseen at auction was a terrible idea or not. And actually, this turned out all right. This truck is in pretty decent condition. It was a little bit dirty, a couple minor issues, but overall, I feel like it was a pretty decent experience. I thought maybe I would purchase this car to rent it out on Turo, and I was looking a little bit more into that, and I just sort of realized that the margins are so thin with Turo that I guess maybe if I wanted to just keep it and have a truck and maybe make a little bit of money on the side, that would be an okay idea. But to actually like think about it as a business, you know, you have to have a huge fleet of cars to really make that work. So I'm probably not going to end up renting this out on Turo. I might actually just end up selling it. I don't really need a truck right now. This is just kind of one of those things where it popped up, looked like a really good deal, and I pulled the trigger. Most of the cars that I buy, I don't need. This is not an exception to that rule. So the car's got a little bit over 86,000 miles on it. I probably will make a few $1,000s if I sell it. So again, it's not something I'm going to be making a ton of money on, but it was kind of an interesting experience, and I'm glad I tried it. So what makes this car special? Not really anything. This is a really boring truck. I mean, it's fine. It's got a lot of power. It's got the Hemi in it. I don't know. It doesn't have a whole lot of options. It's kind of a basic truck. Yeah, there's not really much to say. It's a truck. All right, that's it for this one. Off to the next one. '16 Toyota Prius. What do you want me to say about this car? It's a Prius. It's my wife's car. Well, actually, it was my idea to buy it. We wanted to get something that got good gas mileage, and in 2016 I wasn't quite ready to pull the trigger on an electric car. So yeah, you know what it is, it's fine. In the past I've complained about this car, of how tight it is in here and how much I hate the brakes. And a lot of the kind of feeling cramped in here is due to the fact that we've got this rear facing car seat back there for my daughter. I have a feeling that once she's forward facing, I'll hate this car just slightly less. I mean, the one thing I gotta give this car credit for is we've been getting an average of 56 miles per gallon in the 4 years that we've had this vehicle. So that's pretty good. I still don't like it. It makes me kind of sad. The visibility is terrible. It's hard to see out of this. Like I mentioned before, it's like driving a cave. But I guess the other thing is it's paid off now. So I don't want to get rid of it just because we literally just paid it off. So I have a feeling this Prius is going to stay in my fleet for a little while longer. Tears. All right, that's it for today. Oh, you know what? Actually, there's one more car that I totally forgot to show you. It's this purple one over here. Let's go check it out. Oh, wait a second. Getting a phone call. Hello? Yeah, it's Ethan. It's my therapist. So you think I have a problem? Yeah, that's an understatement. Of course I have a problem. You think I should get rid of some of these cars? I don't think so. I'm not getting rid of any cars. It's fine. No, there's only 10, 11, I mean. You think I should do electroshock therapy? What? All right, I gotta go. I'll see you later. There are 10, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.